Yeah, I just clicked record.
Okay, good. Thank you, because Lisa's not here, so
yeah,
just checking.
Should start.
Perfect. There we go. We got it now.
Perfect. Morning, everyone. Welcome to our Sprint 23 product review. Have a lot of great stuff to show, so we're just going to dive right into it here. Perfect. So starting us off, our goals for Sprint 23. We were doing some award eligibility rules, SFAS file integration, which I'll talk about in a minute, application overlap checks, document number creation, which relates to disbursements, adding the legal authorized authority to a user account for an institution, SIN validation timing, which is basically the user experience of what happens and what things look like when a student SIN is being validated, ministry user adding, viewing, and resolving an institution restriction. On the UX side, we looked at some welcome page content for an institution, second confirmation of enrollment for institutions, the full designation process on the ministry user side, viewing programs and study period offerings, their details, designation details, parent and partner application and their details, lots of details. And then on the analysis side, we've been continuing on the UAT front. Passing it to you, Elise.
Sounds good. So just a little bit of business context. Hopefully I remember all the important stuff. So the first of all is that we are continuing to build all the ministry user pieces of functionality. It's still a little bit of Swiss cheese, but getting there. So of course, not only will ministry users be supporting students and institution users by viewing applications and viewing accounts, but we're also talking about adding, viewing, and resolving restrictions, approving or denying changes, which of course will replace the Appendix 7 process, and approving or denying exceptions. So those are some of those, what we currently call overrides, or even in some cases, some of those appeal conversations. So where we're making a decision to put the application back into the processing flow. So we do have UAT that's underway. I'll talk a little bit about that. Lisa's not able to join us today, but she sent me an update. And I did want to make sure to let folks know that we have absolutely heard the concerns that folks have brought forward as it relates to only having the BC service card as the single entry and only using the business BC EID as the single entry for institutions. So we've absolutely heard that, and we are considering and exploring some options. So as we make some progress there, we'll update you on that, but we heard you. Also, just to let folks know that we talked a little bit last demo, which was only 2 weeks ago because of the return from holidays. And we talked quite a lot about restrictions. But unfortunately, I had to cancel the business check-in last week. So just give folks a heads up that we're going to talk some more about that next week, next Wednesday morning at our business check-in. We do still have our YouTube videos for mod minutes or moments, so you're welcome to check those out. And just a reminder, you are going to see a few, I'm going to call them warnings today, pop-ups, especially, for example, on the Syn check, that kind of stuff. So the final wording we haven't quite landed on yet. We're going to have some UX experts help us with that a little bit later. So don't worry if there's some language there that you're like, oh, I don't love that. You're welcome to give us feedback, but we will be making some adjustments. So, and again, just a reminder, we're trying to reuse processes, come up with the same pathway and use it multiple times. So you'll see that. And of course, we're not building everything for the MVP. We have to find a way to make sure we have the core functionality, but that doesn't mean we're done. And I know that some folks have had different experiences of that, but the goal then is to continue to build enhancements, put them into the system after go live. And of course, we have phase 2 and then phase 3. So just a reminder for that. And I'm going to stop for now and let's see the cool stuff that's been built.
Perfect. Thanks, Elise. Yeah, we didn't forget about anything over the last couple of weeks. Just 2 weeks between product demos, ran out of time for some updates. And as Elise said, with the with content and all that stuff too, you might see maybe wrong acronyms or this or that. Content to come. Awesome. So diving into it, just before we jump into sharing some things, we have been doing a lot of work on the part-time assessment over the last probably 2 sprints now. The update's similar to last time. Unfortunately, it's not one of those that's really shareable until like it's either in the front end or at least in a presentable way, just because those that are familiar with the assessment it's quite complex and has a lot of intertwinedness, so it's not the easiest to see. But just as a caption, we have been working very heavily on that and are actually getting pretty close to getting to some testing for that. Something just to note as well before we keep going, please hold your questions till the end, but feel free to put them in the chat as we're going. Please may answer some as we're going, but we will look at them all at the end. As part of one of the things we're going to be sharing with you today, which is the part-time, full-time application overlap check, which is basically a student can't have an application with overlapping dates with one of their other applications. We've been working pretty heavily on the SFAS file integration piece, which is basically files we get from SFAS about students and their applications and loading them into our system. So we've expanded this to also include the part-time applications now. This is not a historical archive of the data. This is just basically the critical data we need to do checks and do different business rules that we need to based off previous data. So just keep that in mind when we continue on. With that, I'm going to pass the floor over to Anne, who's going to be going over some PIR business rules, which is the program information request. That's what happens when an institution needs to complete the program and offering details for a student.
Yeah, I'm sharing my screen. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so as Andrew mentioned, we have added some business rules and validations, so PIR and as well as our student application. So I will be showing a couple of them. So this is a PIR form. You can see here, the student has requested for the study period and the selected intensity is full time. And here, like the institution user have already filled the PIR form. So since the student has requested the offering intensity full time, if the institution user tried to select the part time, they will be having this validation error, the rule, which will be saying that offering intensity does not match with the student intensity. So they need to select the intensity that has opted by the student. The same validation we have also added in the API side. And the next one is like with the program year. So this application is having the program year 2021 to 22. So so if an institution user tried to select a program year which is outside of the student selected program year, for example, this program year is from August 1st, 2021 to July 31st, 2022. So if we select another date, they will be having again this error. Study start date should be within the program year. Okay.
Perfect.
So yeah, this is this is about the PIR. Now I am showing the student application form.
Yeah, there was a request to just scroll a little bit.
Okay.
We're also getting a fair amount of background noise, I think, from someone. So just if you're not talking, please mute your mic.
Okay, so this was the PIR form. Here is the study period selected by the student and the offering intensity selected by the student. And this is the PIR form. And the offered, if it is part-time, then this will be the message. Same way, if they select a different date, then this will be their validation message. Now moving to student application. So earlier we had this program intensity selection right below the program selection. So now we have moved it above. So every time a student submit an application, this question will be mandatory. And the other thing is, again, here also we have added this program year validation. So here you can see that this application is for 2023-24. And if a student select a different date, here also we will be having the same validation. So they need to select the correct date, like the date within the program year. So this is the other validation we have added. Yeah, that's from me, Andrew. Back to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Anne. Next, we're going to be shifting to Dheepak, who's going to share a few different pieces. Dheepak, whenever you're ready.
Sure, Anu. Yeah, I'm going to grab the screen. So, as a part of this demonstration, I'm going to cover all the three different logins of our application aspect: institution, ministry, and students. So we have a demonstration for every one of these users. So let me start with the institution, where an institution admin can assign a legal signing authority to an institution. So I'm going to click on manage institution and go to manage users. So if you see here, we have different roles like admin and a user and location manager. So if I want to assign a legal signing authority role to one of the users, I'm going to edit on them, and they are an admin. Yes, if they are not an admin, no, we cannot assign this role to them. So if they are an admin, uh, I'm going to assign a legal signing authority. You can discard the primary contact here. It's an obsolete data at our side. So we're going to get rid of it. So I'm going to assign this role. I'm going to save the changes. So finally, yes, successfully, I'm able to appoint or assign a legal signing authority to my institution. And what it means also is, if I'm trying to assign the same role to the second person in the institution, it's not going to let me to do, because for an institution, only one legal signing authority can be there. And the same applies, the same business logic applies to anyone who's been added as a new user to an institution. They can be added as a legal signing authority if they are the first one to be, otherwise they cannot be. So that ends the demonstration of legal signing authority. So I'm going to switch over to the ministry user to demonstrate the institution restriction. We all remember that we saw student restrictions last time, and we told that we're going to show the institution restrictions this time. So I'm going to switch the screen. And I'm going to bring you the ministry login. So I'm logged in as a ministry user. I'm going to go to an institution CC. I'm going to search and pick one of them. And I'm going to click on the restrictions. So here is a list of restrictions that is assigned to an institution, and also with the status whether it's active or resolved. And we had one of the feedbacks of adding the restriction code, the concatenation thing, along with the the reason of the restriction, which we have taken care while doing the development of this. So when I'm going to see a restriction which is resolved, it's going to look like this. It's resolved. And what's the note added while adding a restriction? What is the note added while resolving a restriction, and by whom it's created and by whom it's resolved? And I'm going to add a restriction to this quickly and show only designation type restrictions could be added to an institution, none other. And we have only one from the list now. I'm going to add a restriction. See, it shows up as an active restriction here. And then when I'm going to click on that view, it says the note which I added here, and it's added by myself, and I'm going to resolve it. Same thing. Yes, it's again resolved on 26th of January. Yes, it is. And as an tail end of this, we are going to see these notes in the notes section under the restriction. If you want to filter it, otherwise all notes is already there. We added this restriction on 10:16 and we resolved it on 10:17 a.m. local PST time. That's my time. And that ends the demonstration for the ministry user part. And I'm going to log in as the student to show the overlaps. What it basically means is that when a student already have an application in place uh, with a given study period, they cannot submit the another application with a conflicting study period date. So the intention is that they don't get paid at the same time with more than one grant. So that's the rationale. So I'm so we have an application with the existing study period of August 16th to December 9th. So I've already have a draft application. So I'm going to show you that I'm going to submit the same application, say August 17th to December 10th. Next, I'm going to go to confirm submission and I'm trying to submit this application. Let's see what happens. So it will give me a message that there is an existing application already existing with overlapping study period or a pending PIR. So what that means is, like, if I have an application created, without a study period, that means I asked for a PIR request where my program or study period isn't listed in the SABC system. So unless that is confirmed by the institution, I won't be able to submit another application. But yes, if that is the first application that I'm submitting, which is for a PIR, that's fine. But unless that's confirmed, we are not gonna submit the next application again. And also we also have a follow-up story to this point where when the institution is confirming the PIR dates, we will again check for this overlapping dates to make sure that it doesn't overlap with an existing application for the student. Now I'm going to change the study period to show the next scenario. I'm going to choose a study period which is overlapping with a legacy application. What it means is the SFAS or SAIL. It also validates with your the SFAS or SAIL systems to check if your application is overlapping with one of those applications there. So I'm going to select this, go next. And next, just for the sake of the flow. And I'm going to submit this. Now it's going to conflict with the application which is existing in an SPAS or a sales system, not in SABC. So this is what you're going to see again. Now I'm going to come back to the happy path. OK, now I'm done with all conflicting things. Let me create a valid study period because I have a course for that study period. Which is April 6th to September 18th, which doesn't conflict with, say, August 17th to December 10 or November 1 to April 1. I'm going to select this, go to next, next, next. I'm going to submit this. Yeah, and I'm able to submit it now without any issues. So it's just a workflow which is trying to load the study period. So if I'm going to go back and come here, yes, you can see the study periods. It's here and I'm able to submit it. So only if it doesn't overlap or it doesn't have a pending PIR, now we are allowed to submit the application, and that ends my demonstration. Back to you, Andrew.
Perfect. Thanks, Dheepak. Just as a heads up on that, the scenario Dheepak went through is outlined on the product review board, just in case you were having a hard time following. I know it's a lot of dates to try and keep track of during that, so it is there if you want to reference it as well. But long story short is we're checking that if a previously submitted application is conflicting with one they're trying to submit. Last one for the review will be Henry showing us the student SIN validation, what happens on the student portal when we're validating a student SIN.
All right. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I'll just quickly share my screen. Okay. All right. So, all right. So I'll be demonstrating messages that come up, and definitely some different things like being able to start an application or not being able to start an application. This is with respect to the the status of the student's SIN validation. So I'll start with the happy case scenario. Here, this is a student who has a valid SIN, so there's no message showing here. It's clear. This also shows confirmed. And the student is able to start an application. This start new application button is enabled. Here he can also click to edit or maybe delete as well. I'll go to the next scenario to show a student who has a SIN that has got an issue. SIN is not valid. So over here, this message comes up here, and the student is able to see this anywhere. Even on this profile, the message shows up everywhere. And the other thing with this is that this student is not able to start an application. It's not able to start a new application because the SIN is not valid. And okay, if there were applications here, the student will not be able to edit an application. Ideally, a student who has an invalid SIN will not even be able to start a new application. So all this will be empty. And then the last scenario is student who has pending, whose SIN validation is pending, meaning that things are still going on with validating the user's SIN. So this message comes up here, this yellow banner, and the student is also not able to start a new application. It's not able to edit an existing application. We go all the way here. That's always the case. We see this message coming up, showing on the screen. So that at least this gives the student an idea on why he can't start an application or he can't go further than what is done. So, yeah. So I think I'll pause maybe for that's all the demo.
Yeah, perfect, awesome.
Can I just add? I just want to flag here that this is a big deal, right? So we're talking a couple of changes. First change is that students will not have to have their SIN verified for every application. It's verified when the account is set up or when the SIN number changes, and then it'll be able to be used. So it doesn't need to happen every time. And of course, there will be a gap while it's being verified. I think we put in there up to 3 hours, more likely to be about half that, an hour and a half or so. But that's a significant reduction from how long it takes now, which is more a matter of days. So just want to flag that that's a huge improvement. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Elise. Next, we're going to be shifting to some UX design work here. Just going to pass the floor over to Lynn.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Okay, so today what I'm going to show is the ministry side of things and some of the institutions as well. So let's get into it. The first thing I'm going to show is when a ministry views a pending program. So the scenario here is when, let's say, well, what makes it a pending program? Let's start there. So an institution user submits their program with a request for a policy exemption, for example. The system identifies it as a pending program where a ministry staff does need to review it, keeping in mind that this may not happen a lot as well. So let's take a look at what that looks like for the first round. So the ministry user here. So what we're looking at is, again, the ministry user. They're in the Camosun College profile, which they can see their profile, programs, locations, etc. This is something that we showed a few sprints ago, but for this particular ticket, we looked at the pending programs. So if you click on programs, under programs, you'll see all the programs that Camosun has put into the system. You'll notice that they've submitted a program called Adventure Education, which is a real program, which is pretty cool. anyway, they submitted a venture education, which is in pending status, and that's where they requested for a policy exemption. So as a ministry staff, you'll be able to kind of see that. And if you click on view, where it takes us to is the program details page. So here you'll see that it's from Camosun College. If you click on this link here, it'll link you back to that profile. It'll show you when it's submitted, and you'll notice some call to actions up here as well. So a way to decline this and a way to approve this program as per policy exemption request. So you're probably going to do a little bit of research into what they've submitted so far. So description, offering, credential type. You'll notice that there is a view program as well. So if you click on view program, it's going to give you a read-only view of the program information that they submitted with the policy request there. Same for the offerings as well. If you click on view, it'll give us a read-only view of the study period offerings that they submitted as well. So that's kind of how you would do your how you would look into the program and then make a decision whether you would decline or approve the program as well. So let's say we clicked on everything looks good when you view the program, when you view the period offerings, and we want to give them a policy exemption. What we can do is click on approve program. A modal is going to appear that says outline the reasoning for approving this program. This will be stored in the institution profile notes. So you're able to add an effective end date for the policy exemption and also notes for it as well. So this, once you put in the notes, it's going to get stored in the institution account. So for Camosun College, there is that notes area where we had seen previously. That's where it will be stored. So let's say we put in some notes like, this is okay for a policy exemption, approve now. Once you click on approve now, the screen is going to change to let us know, okay, it was approved by Ralph Edwards. This was approved on October 3rd with an effective end date of October 3rd. So it'll give us that data with the status change to approved. Now we flip back and we looked at what decline does. Decline, same modal, except this is about declining the program. We don't want, let's say we put in some notes about it, click decline now. It's just going to flip over to a denied status. And of course, it's going to record who denied it and when it was denied as well. So flipping back, that is just programs and where the ministry staff will be able to see pending programs. So that, just looking back on the ticket here, these are these two tickets that we just looked at here. So if you want to look at the prototype, there is a link there as well. You can take a look at it. So the next thing I'm going to do is present the institution side of things. So on the institution side of things, we've added a second COE. So a long time ago, we've added the first COE. Now we're kind of back adding the second COE. So students, and the reason why is that students may have two disbursements. Therefore, a second COE is for a financial control, right? So let's take a look at how that looks like on the institution side of things. So logging into the institution user would log into the home page. They will go to confirmation of enrollment, and this is where they would do all of their work. So you'll notice that we're in confirmation of enrollment. Here is where we see some tab UI work where we can confirm enrollment, and it presents us a table here. And this table, the data that gets pulled into this table is that these are the students that you can confirm enrollment so that fundings can be dispersed. So you'll notice that, let's say Matt Damon is here, he has a disbursement date, Jerome, Arlene, et cetera, they are all on this list because you can confirm their enrollment today, let's say. We've also added another tab for the second COE, which we call an upcoming, an upcoming enrollment. So if you click on that, it'll present us another table that says, hey, this is not available to confirm enrollment yet because these applications are still outside of the 21 days, but you'll be able to see that. Now, if I click into, you'll notice that Matt Damon is also on this list because he then has two disbursements. So if I click on view, it's just going to show me his information, his application information with a banner that says, hey, this application is currently outside of the 21 days still, et cetera. You'll notice that it says disbursement November 23rd, 2021, 2 of 2. So let's go back and I'll just show you the other table as well. So if I go back to confirm enrollment, so Matt Damon actually has a disbursement date of October 4th. So he does have 2 disbursements. If I go click on view, again, it's going to present me a similar view, except this one is going to be October 4th, one of 2 disbursements. So that just kind of gives us an ability to see the second COE, to give us information about what is upcoming and what I can confirm today as an institution user. So again, as a recap, all these people on the list, you can confirm enrollment. This upcoming enrollment is when these applications are still outside of the 21 days, but you'll be able to see that as well, or the institution user would be able to see that as well. That was the last ticket here for institution second COE. And again, you can click on the link to see the prototype if I went too fast or if you have any questions after that. Awesome. So then should I pass it over to you, Schwenker, or should we just go into what Katrina has?
Just keep going.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to pass it over to Katrina, who's going to be talking about the institution homepage. So you might have seen a sneak peek of it when I was presenting there. So I'm going to navigate for Katrina. And Katrina, I'll pass it over to you now.
All right, thank you. Okay, so we are good. Yeah, thank you. If you want to click into the homepage. Awesome. Okay, so we've got another case for the institution user. This time we'll be going into a little bit more about the institution homepage. So we've kept the overall design pretty straightforward for the time being here, but with that said, there's definitely a few important pieces that this page addresses. So the first one being we've got this welcome card up top here, and we've made use of the space in this card to address sort of what we've determined as our 2 kind of main user groups. So first one being the new users, and then we also have returning users. So for new users who come to the welcome page, we've made it clear to them that they can use the second card where it says, let's get started. And we've broken down the process of setting up their account into the 4 key steps. So step 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we've outlined just a little bit about what each step entails. And something that we felt was important was because not every user sort of has the permissions that are needed for each step. So we've added in a little bit of text under the headings there just to make it clear sort of which user is appropriate for each step. So we've got step 1 for admin users, step 2 also for admin users. Step 3, all users have access to, so everybody can add programs. And then step 4 is specific just to the legal signing authority. And so coming back up top to that welcome banner there, for returning users, they've already gone through those steps. So we just wanted to highlight for them that they can make use of that left-hand navigation to do things like add program and confirm enrollment or report a change. And for the time being, the final piece on this page, if we scroll down just a little bit, we've added in, yeah, awesome. We've got a little sort of card for if a user needs help. So we have for further information, please refer to the StudentAid BC Help Center. So that text at the end there, it is hyperlinked and it will redirect users to the Help Center within the site. So that's what we've got for this page. And then, yeah, thank you, Lynn.
Awesome. While that loads, we also want to test this with our institution users as well, just to see if this kind of lands with them. Of course, there could be future adjustments as well. Loads. My device is low on memory. Just 1 second. There you go. Right.
Perfect. Okay, so switching gears over to the ministry user. So what we've got here.
Sorry about that.
So, no worries. So we've got, we're looking at the homepage for the ministry user. So in this case, for this ticket, it was the ministry user is coming on to view supporting details that might have been inputted by a parent or a partner. So in our flow here, the ministry user has come to their homepage, which, as you can see, is coming soon. And let's say they're going to search for the student that they need to kind of look into today. So we'll click on to student search in the left-hand nav.
Okay. I think we forgot to link that. So let's.
Oh, okay.
That's okay. Let me just adjust for us. Go into our design room here. Go to ministry. And of course, everyone has access. You can always view our Figma files like history here. And then we're going to okay.
So maybe I'll just take this opportunity while Lynn's finding that. It's a bit epileptic, isn't it? Watching all of these screens and we're jumping all over the place and moving fairly quickly. So just a reminder that the purpose of the demo is not to get into all of the details and all of that, but absolutely, we totally understand that you'll probably want to spend some more time really looking at it and digesting it. And so a couple of ways to do that. First of all of the change champions, which includes all of the team leads, have access to the test environment, which includes student, institution user, and ministry user. And so as a team, maybe you might want to go in and take a look at a few things that we've shown you if they're built. Not the stuff that is in design, that's not built yet. The other option is, I believe Katie's meeting with the student support team. If you haven't already met, then you're meeting later today to go over and kind of walk you through, to take you on a bit of a guided tour of that environment as well. So please definitely talk to your team lead about those kinds of things so that we can make sure to show you and you can spend some more time because the demo is intended to hopefully whet your appetite to spend some more time in there. So just so you know. How's it going? Murphy's Law, it's the
yeah, it's definitely
patients. Yeah,
definitely Murphy's Law. Okay, we're back at it. So I've just clicked on search and now we're on student detail. Go ahead, Karina.
Awesome. Thank you, Lynn. Okay, perfect. So we've conducted our search. We have searched our student today is Hung. And so viewing his student details here, we're going to click into Hung's applications. Awesome. And so for today's case, we're going to look at Hung's financial aid application. So we'll click view there. Awesome. And so here we've got, again, as the ministry user, everything is in the read-only view. So as you can see, all the form fields, they're grayed out. They're not clickable or anything like that. It's just simply to be able to look over the details and to be able to review the information that's there. And so the biggest change here, yeah, as you can see that Lynn's pointing to, is the addition of this left-hand navigation. So as indicated sort of by the blue text and, oh yeah, perfect. Awesome. So what we're going to flick into here is we're looking at the information that was submitted by parent 1. So this again is supporting information on behalf of the student application. So yeah, once again, read only, all the form fields, they're grayed out. And if we scroll down to the bottom, Lynn, thank you so much. And we'll click into the next section. Perfect. And so, yeah, we've just got section 2, again, the supporting information that's been inputted here. And if we looked over everything here, we've reviewed the details that we need to, we can make use of that left-hand navigation and click back into student. Sorry, if you just want to click into student up at the top. Yeah, awesome. And then, so yeah, we're just looking at the view that we came in at, but that's the biggest change here is just the addition of that navigation on the left hand to be able to look at parent 1, parent 2, if you have both options, or partner to view any supporting information that might be needed. And yeah, that's everything. Thanks, Lynn.
No problem.
Awesome. Thank you, Lynn. I'm just going to take back the screen here. Elise, did you have any screen sharing you wanted to do, or just okay, perfect. I will just take back the screen here. Should all be seeing the review board. As Lynn said, all the references are there just fine. The scenario Dheepak went through for the overlap is there as well. And Elise, you wanted to talk about some UAT test scenarios.
Yeah, so Lisa Laprade, who's our test coordinator, is not available to be with us this morning, but she sent me a brief update to share with you. And I'd also invite any of our testers, so Nikki or Tatiana or Danielle, to add any comments at the end of this as well. So her comments are, January has been mainly about institution user testing. As we know, that's where we were starting. So testing things like the institution user can successfully authenticate their SABC account with a business BC EID, logging in through the portal. They can view read-only BC EID profile information, as well as update their SABC email address, complete or edit the institution details, view a location summary page, add an instruction location, which is essentially add a location, edit the location. They can add or edit users depending on their profile. They can enable or disable users, again, depending on their profile. Search the user list, create and edit a program, add and edit an offering, and view and complete program information requests from students. So in order to do that, there has been some logging in as students in order to set up applications so that program information requests come through. And then of course, institution users are verifying that they can view the program information request and provide the required information. My understanding is that after about completing 15 of the test scenarios so far, they have found 3 bugs, and 2 of those have already been fixed. And of course, we'll be reviewing more of the suggested changes and enhancements for future consideration. That's the update from Lisa. Nikki or Tatiana or Danielle, anything you'd like to add to that to share with the team?
Just so you're not talking into a void, I'm going to say no. But well, actually, no, I will. I'll have one little. One of the issues we are experiencing is environment instability. So that is a struggle that we're having. I'm assuming it's because the project team is migrating, developing, and things like that. So yeah, it's something we've raised up through Lisa to see if there's anything that could be done to assist with that, because you'll see results changing in real time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Perfect. With that, we'll just keep her going here. Again, I have been capturing questions in the chat and stuff, which to go over next time. Lastly, goals for next sprint. Again, these are just goals. We haven't done our sprint planning yet, so our sprint planning follows this. So subject to change as usual. But continuing on some award eligibility rules. Whoops, I didn't lock that. Some reassessment analysis, as you've seen throughout the previous several sprints actually. There's a lot of things that feed into what happens when something changes after the student's been confirmed, after they've gotten money. So now that will be that sort of first chunk of that work. Development, institutions, second confirmation enrollment, basically what you just saw from Lynn there. The designation part from an institution, which we saw last demo. The student award eligibility, I have that twice, sorry for that. Ministry users, viewing these student application details, including parent and partner, approving or denying an education program and completing the designation agreement. Most of that we saw today. On the UX side, reviewing our accessibility audit review. On the design side, the institution welcome page content, that should be under student. For the student, the document uploader and a student requesting a change to their application. Ministry users, viewing the student document uploader, as you see these two kind of connect here. And analysis, continuing the account program offering locations management rules. There we have a lot of things that may be able to be edited right now that might not. So continuing that analysis work of determining those things. Awesome. With that, I think, Elise, I'll pass the floor to you.
Sure, lots of questions. So folks will recall we started with some of the validations from the system about overlaps. So this is where these questions are relating to. So definitely a good note that folks are noticing sometimes on the screen as we're demoing things, there may be some errors, and this is part of a bit of a messy test environment as we've applied rules partway through. So for example, we may have allowed the system to create an offering that was 57 weeks long before we added the rule that stops offerings, limits them to 52 weeks, and they must be a minimum of 42 weeks. So we also, of course, are not allowing institution users to add programs and offerings for a program year that hasn't been identified. So we're not, at this point, we don't anticipate giving them the ability to set up for, say, 5 years ahead, although we certainly might want to get there, but for day one, we're not there. So do we have an institution? Do we have validation? Yes, we do have the validation that doesn't allow for more than 52 weeks or less than 6 weeks to reflect our policy. And then question about the legal authorized or legal signing authority. So this is when we jumped into the designation to show you the user functionality. So just a reminder that institution users currently get a list of the folks that are in their business BCEID account, and they can give those people access to the system depending on the profile. And that there's an attribute of the admin user profile, which includes legal signing authority, not something that would be given to more than one individual. But that's how we're going to do that, is that an admin user who organizes their users will sort through, provide appropriate access, and identify which of those users will be the legal signing authority. And it doesn't do anything outside of gives them the ability to request designation, which is essentially signing the designation authority. So that attribute isn't giving them a key to a new hallway or anything like that, that other users aren't seeing. But it does give them the ability to request designation. Will there be a report of all new applications held by D restrictions? So this is where I think I tried to answer a little bit lower down, but the idea that we essentially a list. How do we know which institutions have a D restriction? And so that's something that we have talked about, is giving the ministry user the ability to say, show me a list of all of the institutions that have restrictions. Show me a list of all of the students that have restrictions, or not students, applications. And that's part of the process, is that when a restriction is added, it suspends the applications. And so we will have a list of those applications that have fallen off the truck, right? So, and then the ministry users are going to need to go in, because it depends on the reason and what the issues are that need to be resolved in order to get that application back into the flow. So there won't be a VUN report, but there will be an ability to show me a list of those applications impacted by restrictions. We talked a little bit last time, and we'll talk next week a little bit more about restrictions. But at this point in time, we don't plan to have, you saw the start, stop date, name, description, that kind of stuff for restriction. At this point, we don't plan on showing in that area for MVP what the restriction does, because essentially it either suspends the application or it doesn't. And we do have a list that we can certainly make available that folks are reviewing for accuracy, to ensure that we have the system doing the correct piece. So the system won't be showing that for MVP. So then we had a conversation about overlaps. So this was the functionality that was shown where we want to make sure that we are not funding students for or double funding for the same period of time. So I think this is a really good question that Wade brought up around withdrawals. So we need to figure out how that'll work, because if, let's say, student had an application and they were funded from August 9th to December 17th, but they withdrew on September 7th and then had a subsequent application for October 2nd. Is that an eligible application? That's something we'll have to sort out, because it depends on whether or not they received funding. Because this is about ensuring that we don't duplicate the funding. So that's a good point. We need to take a look at that with our withdrawal functionality. When there's an academic overlap, will the system provide details of the applications that overlap and provide instructions for how to resolve? I'm not quite sure what is that for the student to resolve, or for the institution user or ministry user to resolve? Jeremy?
Yeah, for the ministry user. Just when we were going through there, when there was an overlap, I saw a little drop down in the top right that just said there's an overlap or something along those lines, and was just curious whether it was going to be in MVP, it was going to be providing the student more information then, so that they know what the nature of the overlap is, and then also like how to resolve it. Because if it shows them, for example, application A is overlapping with B, they may be able to resolve that on their own, or advise them that they need to contact someone.
Yeah, I think we can certainly improve the language to make sure that we give them as much information as possible. I do not anticipate that for MVP we'll be able to tell them specifically what's wrong. I think that'll just be too complex. So they'll probably continue to get some kind of a message that maybe says, your application dates are overlapping, please check, and maybe a hyperlink or something like that. But it's not going to, for MVP, it's not going to say application 20221-9 is overlapping with application blah, blah, blah. That, I don't think that will happen for MVP. So we can certainly look at how can we do a better job of helping students try to figure out what's wrong and fixing it, for sure. So I think I've answered the impact question. And the report. So we're back talking about the restrictions list here. So we'll have to figure out where to put that, I would imagine, and maybe Katie, this might be an appendix in some of the support material, or maybe even for the operations team in some of their operations material. It's not a different list than what we have now. But certainly new staff will probably need to start to learn what does B4 mean versus 72 and all of that, which a lot of our long-term staff are already memorized. So definitely have some support material there. Student will be able to delete a submitted application. No, they can't delete, but they can cancel a submitted application prior to confirmation of enrollment. But from a records management perspective, absolutely not delete, because we need to have a record of that. Wade, did you have a comment there?
Yeah, sorry, that was just because during the demonstration, the presenter had actually, showed, as they were showing it, they actually showed, here's the trash can to delete an application, but the application on the page was submitted. So I was just checking that just.
Yeah, so if the student has, no, fair enough. Yeah. Again, we're trying to use some simple language, but yeah, so the student experience is such that they will be able to cancel, what we would call cancel, their application before COE. After COE, that button won't be available anymore, because you can't stop, the train's already left the station. They might be able to request a change, but for the most part, it's too late by then to cancel the application. And of course, we need to have records of all of that. Certainly can't delete. So, but it is using a simple language. So the error message, and I think this is similar to the content around that yellow error message for Syn, is there some ability for us to do a better job? And I think I'm hearing this from lots of folks. How can we do a better job of giving students as much information as possible and telling them what to do? Absolutely, that is our goal. And so we have a content expert that's going to come in, probably not until about March, and help us go through every single one of those and provide their expertise. And where we can, let's make sure we provide students with as much information as we can. However, for MVP, we may not be able to do all of that, and we'll have to continue to enhance the system as we go.
Just a time check for you, Elise. It's
Thank you.
10:57 if you wanted to cover a topic in particular on these, or just keep going.
I think I'm just going to keep going because last time we ran out of time. So I'm going to keep trying. So is the way we do Syn Checks changing? So I think this will cover off a number of them. So Syn Checks will be done when the account is set up. We are connecting with CRA, Canada Revenue Agency, not ESDC, which is who we connect with now through SFAS. And we'll be validating that number. A, we make sure that the number is valid, and B, we also then make sure that that number is linked to that individual. So that will be done early on. And as I mentioned, it's a huge improvement because, of course, it won't have to be done for every application. So there's some comments about how long that takes. Then a question about the program. So we started talking about programs and offerings, and of course, institution users add a lot of program information, and ideally, the system validates that and moves the program to approved. In some cases, the system is not able to do that, and so the program is in pending status. And when it's in pending status, the institution can set up offerings, which was the question. However, they are not visible to the student because the program is in pending status. And that's when the institution user would either need to make some adjustments to the questions, of course, telling the truth, or they might need to request an exemption from the institutions and programs team in order to get an approval, which is when a ministry user would go in, take a look at that, and either approve or deny that request, moving the program through to approved status, which would then make it available for the student to see, and any offerings associated to that as well. Sounds like that might be something worth maybe going over in one of our business check-ins, not next week, but maybe the week after that. So some more timing. Can anyone review or deny a program? So no, the goal is that that would be set up, that we make sure that we're giving that functionality to those profiles where it would be appropriate. We do anticipate having a variety of profiles in the system. However, we're trying not to have so many that they are complex and difficult to maintain. So at this point, we anticipate having some like a read-only profile of a ministry user, perhaps more of a clerk 9 position, an 11, a 15. I use that language very generically so that we make sure that we are giving people the right profile to do the work that they do while keeping that simple. Most of how we'll manage that initially is through soft controls. So that's that. So the upcoming enrollment, this is where Lynn was showing us with confirmation of enrollment, we have to do it twice sometimes if there's 2 disbursements. So showing institution users here's the ones that can be confirmed because it's within 21 days. And here's a list of all the other ones. So yeah, that's a new functionality for them. institution users haven't always been able to see those ones that are coming until they're within the confirmation of enrollment window. So so that's going to be a big change. But of course, remembering that for some institutions, those are going to be some big lists. So they'll probably be using that search and filter functionality. Stephanie, did you have a comment?
Yeah, that one was mine. So what I wanted to understand, and maybe I just couldn't see it on the screen, is so if I'm looking at one of the ones now where Stephanie is available to be confirmed, in the current world, I can see Stephanie's getting, I'm going to make up numbers, CSG grant 3,000, Canada student loan 4,000, BC student loan 1,000, and their line items, so I can see what I'm actually confirming. So I have a sense of what kind of money is coming for that student. I'm not sure I saw that. I thought I just saw that I was doing a confirmation, and I'm hoping that's not what it is, but I couldn't quite tell.
Yeah, what you saw was what we would call a summary view, but you can go in and see the details if you want to, which would allow you to go into those applications and see the numbers there in order to make a decision to confirm or deny.
So how, and this might get too technical, so you can park it in a note, but right now when I get an ECE file, because most of us are never going to go into the system and manually do this, my ECE report is 97 pages of 2-point font, and I'm not making that up. Am I no longer getting dollar amounts and types of funding rolling through for confirmations in the new file? Am I just getting a name and some dates?
So Andrew, maybe could you help us with that, because we're not, I don't think we can answer that yet, but our goal is not to make changes to the what we call the bulk technical piece of it. Andrew, can you try to help me navigate this one?
We can. It is just 11:03. We have several people starting to drop off the call here.
Yep.
So might flag the remainder of these as takeaways here for a next update. Don't know your thoughts on that, Elise, just because we are running out of time and people are dropping off. Particularly the last sections is mostly about the parent and partner piece, about seeing that different navigation there from the student application. Sure. As well as this one in particular, we could likely spend a while going through.
So, okay, so why don't we do this? So next week, we're going to talk at our business check-in about restrictions. And maybe then we can also talk about parent and partner. For this one, I think it's probably fair to say that we haven't built the bulk COE yet. So we don't know exactly what that's going to look like for institution users, Stephanie. However, the goal is, as much as possible, we're trying to keep things the same. We're not trying to make major adjustments. So, and if you tell us this is the information we need in order to approve it, then that's something we're absolutely going to work with. So I can't promise you that, but absolutely we're going to work on that. 11:04. We're gonna have to figure out, because I keep thinking this meeting ends at 11:15. So I'm like, oh, it's all good. I'll just keep talking. But yeah. Sounds like we're gonna try to finish up. So we've got a bunch of questions, and I just want to recognize that we also have a bunch of questions dangling from last time. So our mod business check-in next week, we'll be trying to clean up and answer all of those questions from both. So restrictions and then the remainder of the questions from today. So good that we're getting lots of questions. That's great. Also, please feel free to ask and speak to your team lead and or Katie to set up some time to play in the environment, because it could well be that you might even find the whole answer to your question if you have a chance to play in the environment. Totally get that. So let's set up those as much as we can as well. Perfect.
With that there, again, you'll hear future updates there from Elise on these questions. Yeah. Have a great day, everyone, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, guys.